Welcome to the Predictive Playbook for Week 8 college football action. I have Jesse Schule and Dr. Chuck with me as usual here. This is being recorded on Tuesday, October 19th, 2021. And we're going to get right to it. We are going to start out with Jesse Schule. He's going to talk about Northwestern taking on the mighty Michigan Wolverines, who are ranked number 6 in the nation. They're 6-0. Perfect record on the line here. They're favored by 23.5. Sounds like that record will stay intact. Over-under is 51 points. This will take place at Ann Arbor, Michigan at noon on Saturday. So, Jesse, where is your best bet going on this game?
Well, John, I like the dog here. I've had some success with underdogs lately. You guys might remember last week I had South Florida plus 9.5. They should have won that game outright against Tulsa, but they coughed up a 10-point, or they gave up a 10-point lead late and ended up losing by one. And then the week prior, I had Florida State plus 17.5 at North Carolina, and they ended up winning outright. So this week, I like Northwestern. You look at Michigan; they're 6-0, as you mentioned, ranked 6 overall. Their stock's at an all-time high. You're not going to get any deals betting on a team like this. I think the points are too many points. If you look at the history between these two teams, 4 of the last 5 head-to-head meetings have been decided by one score. I think Northwestern actually matches up quite well against Michigan. They have a common opponent in Rutgers, and Northwestern's coming off of a win over Rutgers. They actually beat Rutgers by a larger margin than Michigan had beaten Rutgers. They didn't allow Rutgers to gain any yards on the ground last week. Ryan Helinski, the quarterback, threw for 267 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. And that is the key to hanging in there with Michigan, because you're not going to be able to run on them. So finally, I like Northwestern plus 23.5.
I think you're on to something there. Northwestern looked good last week, too. Let's get Chuck involved here. We're going to talk 12:30 Eastern Standard Time action on ESPN3 at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, Virginia. And that could mean only one thing: a visit by Syracuse to Virginia Tech. 3-3 is Virginia Tech Hokies. Syracuse Orange comes in on the road at 3-4. Virginia Tech favored by 3 points currently. Over under 45.5. Tell me where to put my money on this game, Chuck.
I love that Jesse brought up his aspect and angle on why he's going against Michigan, because it kind of parlays into this. And who would want to mess with Jesse taking a dog right now? I mean, he's on fire. But he brought up the point: what would Michigan, what is Michigan supposed to be favored here if they weren't Michigan and they weren't undefeated and they didn't look like the part? Vegas has to add some onto that. And we're looking at a team in Syracuse coming to visit that's off of 3 straight 3-point losses, covering 6 of 7 games this season, off of a basically standalone public performance against Clemson. Clemson is what Clemson is. It's not a good team this year, and it's a little bit of a down year. But if Dabo can keep that recruiting going, they'll be right back. Dino Babers went for a field goal late in that game and didn't get the tie, but only lost 17-14, whereas Virginia Tech went to Pitt and just got dismantled in the wake of almost beating Notre Dame the week before. So you come in and you just get a boring home field advantage in Lane Stadium point total here, -3, and it's just wrong. I had this at 5 and maybe expanding up to 6. And so you get to bet off of against what we just saw, which we know the public loves. And I love a spot where everyone watched a game and a team, that what people remember about Virginia Tech is the loss to Notre Dame and then getting hammered the week after. And I think it's just a bargain to only lay a field goal here back at home, Syracuse back on the road. And, when I think this would be 5 or 6, only having to lay 3, I think you're getting a great deal on, Syracuse not keeping that streak going here.
Yeah, I like that one too, Chuck. No argument from me, that's for sure. And now I'm going to take the center stage here, and we're going to talk about the Ragin Cajuns. They're hosting Arkansas State, 7:30 p.m. this October 21st, which is Thursday night. This is a 4% premium best bet that I'm giving out, and it is on the Ragin Cajuns, because how in the hell could you ever bet on Arkansas State with a defense that's allowing 46.7 points per game through 6 games, which is dead last in Division I football. I know these kids are playing well. Their parents go to the games. It's a great time, but I'm just calling it as I see it. It's kind of like an umpire behind the plate. You can't, if you don't see it, you don't make it up, right? Yards per point is becoming very meaningful stat this time of year for me going forward. So that measures the efficiency of a defensive unit and an offensive unit. Numbers on defense that are higher in value means that it takes more yards for the opponent to score 1 point on the scoreboard. Conversely, if it's a low number, that means the defense is really struggling. In this case, we have an example where it's just so drastic I can't even begin to tell you. But by comparison, Georgia has the nation's best at 31.7 opponent yards per point. The Sun Belt leader, Coastal Carolina, has basically an average D1 defensive yards per point metric at 18.9, and ratios at 15 and below. We reflect very weak and struggling defensive units, and Arkansas State comes into this at 12.5, which is ridiculously not good. So I do think laying the wood here with Louisiana Lafayette, no matter how high it may get, I think is the right pick. It's also supported by a betting angle. You bet on any team that is facing an opponent with a terrible defense, allowing over 35 or more points per game, coming off back-to-back games in which 70 or more total points were scored. That is 79 and 32, folks, for 72% over the last 5 seasons. I say we take Louisiana Lafayette Ragin Cajuns. And I love that mascot. Maybe that should be what the Washington football team should use. Washington Ragin Cajuns.
Not the Iron Condors?
Well, he hasn't gotten back to me from the email I sent and the tweets, so we can't wait around.
He's a little deep in investigation, so.
That's true. So let's go to Jesse's second game. This is a 7 o'clock Fox Sports 2 televised game at Bulldog Stadium in California, Fresno, California, and that clearly means that Fresno State is hosting somebody, and that team is Nevada, who is 5-1. Fresno State comes into this affair at 5-2. Fresno State favored by 3 at home against a team with a 5-1 record, over under 65 points. Jesse, where do I put my money on this game?
Well, John, I like Fresno State in this game. All eyes were on Fresno State when they upset UCLA in that game a few weeks back. They started the season winning 4 of their first 5 games. Their one loss during that span was at Oregon, and they could have won that game. They played really well. It was a close game. They covered the spread. And then they went out and they lost at Hawaii. And then the shine started to come off, and people are starting to ask, is this team for real? And myself included. But I had a look at that game, and what I see there is they turned the ball over 6 times in that game. There's not too many teams in college football that are going to win when they have 6 turnovers. Their quarterback, Jake Haener, he threw 4 interceptions in that game, but that is absolutely not the norm for him. He is an absolute stud. He's 3rd in the nation in passing with 2,326 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions. The Fresno State Bulldogs are back home this week. Their defense is coming off a shutout win at Wyoming. And finally, I just think they are going to be too high-powered for Nevada. And -3 is a great deal.
I like the breakdown, Jesse. Always inspirational for me to go run to the window. I can't think of betting the game any other way. We're going to conclude today's show with Chuck's second pick, a 7 o'clock game. And isn't it nice that we have 5 new entries into the poll this week, which is the AP poll, which basically doesn't mean anything, but it does for these programs like UTSA, who is making it in there for one of the few times in their program history. They're number 24 at 7-0 and are going to travel to Joe Elliott Stadium in Ruston, Louisiana, to take on Louisiana Tech, who is 2-4. UTSA -7 points, 59.5 point total. Where should we bet our money on this game, Chuck?
I love that we have made the second half of this video the Group of 5 segment, because they deserve attention. All the attention this season's on Cincinnati, but I love that we are doing Sun Belt, Mountain West, Conference USA in succession. Try and make this quick. Skip Holtz has a quarterback problem. He's got a pretty big team problem going, period. UTSA has never won in Ruston. They're 7-point favorites on the road here. They're 6-1 this season against the spread, just like Syracuse. These two teams are going in different directions. UTSA is really good. They're a good team. They beat Illinois to start this season. We were on them. We've been on them several times this season. And this is just a discount line. Three-headed monster of Frank Harris, Sincere McCormick, Josh Cephas. Excellent team. Frank Harris is a fifth-year quarterback. They keep him clean. He doesn't get sacked. Louisiana Tech can't get to the quarterback. And the discrepancy in this game is just way bigger. People are going to say the Roadrunners can't win in Ruston, and that's part of the reason that this line is what it is. But I think it should be double digits. And I don't see this game being close, and I don't even know if Skip Holtz knows who's going to play quarterback. He might have all three of his guys going, and I think UTSA handles this from beginning to end quite easily.
I think so too, and 7 seems to be a pretty cheap price. So there you have it, folks. 5 picks in about 11 minutes, all quick fashion, very informative. Great job, Jesse. Great job, Dr. Chuck. Appreciate your time being on the show. Guys and gals, take advantage of the subscription flash sale that's scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. 50% off a 3-day all-access subscription is about the cost of maybe 3 pints of beer, depending on where you live. So I think you can probably, afford to do that. So take advantage of these deals that SportsMemo puts out. And we appreciate them doing that for us and for you. So on behalf of Dr. Chuck, Jesse, and myself and SportsMemo.com and the Predictive Playbook, may all the wins be yours. Thanks for listening, guys.